So we're going to move on to the forum portion of this evening. My name is Trustee Paige Allen, and my colleague, Trustee Jen Marlowe, is here with me this evening, and we'll be tag teaming the question and answer portion together. So I'm going to read each of the candidates' names, and I'd love for you to stand up and then take a seat at the front as your name is called. These candidates are in ballot order, which was determined at random. And so number one will be Catherine Bamberger. Lori Kohansky. Matthew Reed. Jenna Kirsten. Smriti Sinha. Kaylee McTagg. Sarah Mazinski. Kenneth Lozier. And Leslie Dykeman. Great, thank you everyone. So I'll invite Trustee Marlowe up to ask some questions. Thanks, Jen.
Hi, good evening. I'm Trustee Jennifer Marlowe. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to the candidates for running. So the first question will be, the candidates will come up in alphabetical order by last name, and then that will be changed to first name for the second question. Okay, so the question that was posed to the candidates is, what are the most important issues facing public libraries today, and how do you envision APL rising to meet these challenges? And so I will, we're going to start with Catherine Bamberger first, and then I will come up and read the candidates' names in alphabetical order by last name.
Thank you, Paige. Thank you, Jennifer. My name is Catherine Bamberger. The challenges that we see around the country for libraries often involve the book banning, which I think we are not seeing as much here in our happy little Albany bubble. But there always are financial challenges and trying to balance the programming desires and needs. And in particular in Albany, we run 7 branches. So there are a lot of costs, maintenance built into that. And so in order to make sure that we continue the programming levels that we need, we also have a fairly high poverty rate here in Albany. And the libraries around the country, and particularly here in Albany, are, like the schools, often providing social services and supports in a way that maybe doesn't happen in other communities. And that is something that puts an additional burden on staff and facilities. So those are all challenges that are not only faced around the country, but certainly here in Albany. And so I think as board members, we have a responsibility to balance all of those needs. No one likes a tax increase, nobody likes to pay more money, but we do fund what we value most. And so if we value supporting our community and we value the public space that is the library system, where you don't have an obligation to actually spend money to be here, then that's where we have to make our investment. So thank you very much. Thank you all for coming out. I'm thrilled to death that we have 9 candidates, because that shows that we do, as a community, we do very much value our public libraries. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Leslie Dykeman.
Okay, I'm Leslie. I live in the Bach Branch neighborhood, and I'm very blessed because I walk to the branch. I use it to get books, and I've requested online, and I like that I can get a scan of a document in PDF form, and it goes right to my email. I try to make a craft event or talk when I can, and I don't know if this is good or bad, but everybody there knows my name. Okay, for this question, you heard first from the top of the ballot order, and now you're hearing from the bottom of the ballot order, because I'm number 9. Okay, here are the issues I have found that public libraries are facing today. Money, the digital divide with rapidly changing technology, staffing issues with regard to safety and security, relevance and censorship. But I'm only going to use my 2 minutes for money and the digital divide. Of utmost importance to the issue of money is to pass the budget proposal on May 19th. In the next 2 weeks, my effort in campaigning are to get people to the polls, say yes to the budget, and then I want their vote. Getting that budget passed is crucial. The APL must meet the digital divide challenges by expanding hotspots and Wi-Fi for those that are already digital literate. We already know computer sessions are on the increase. Reverse mentoring might be able to challenge senior populations to be a creative way of bringing seniors into the library. Could each branch partner with a school and have a middle schooler mentor to teach familiarity with devices and how to use them? You know, middle schoolers know everything, and grown-ups know nothing, so maybe this would work. Thank you.
Next, we have Jenna Kirsten.
Hello everyone, my name is Jenna Kirsten, and I've been a resident of the City of Albany for around 6 years, and primarily a resident of the Capital Region for over 10 years. Due to the multifaceted roles that libraries play in their communities, limited funds and time are being pulled in various directions. There's the need to provide high-quality services to library patrons, maintain physical structures, update technology, and respond to evolving digital needs of the community, and ensure that library staff is fairly compensated and trained to meet community needs. Maintaining a balance between mission and financial reality are among the major issues facing libraries today. These concerns are worsened by a political environment that fosters insecurity and federal support, while simultaneously taking resources away from our community and threatening free speech, which places libraries in the position of needing to provide more with less. I envision that APL can meet these challenges by listening to and communicating with the community that it serves, then making adjustments based on usage, need, and areas of greatest impact. By looking at trends in library services, from the hours that the different branches are most frequently visited, to event attendance, to digital and print circulation patterns, and actively seeking to understand the concerns and needs of Albany residents, such as through this recent community survey, APL can make strategic adjustments to its services. It can also identify new avenues of meeting needs expressed through public feedback. Additionally, APL can nurture its current partnerships with local community stakeholders, like the school district, local universities, and nonprofits, while creating additional connections within the city. Such partnerships could create any number of additional opportunities for the community, like expanding the multilingual language programming and increasing available book offerings to represent the many languages spoken in Albany. Data-driven decision-making, as well as enhancing and expanding current community partnerships, are essential steps that APL can take to meet the challenge of financing its many important services. Thank you so much.
Next is Lori Gohansky.
Good evening, friends. It's good to be with you tonight. I live in the Delaware neighborhood of our city, and that branch was one of the first places that I went to when I moved here. And it has become the place where I know I can call home. But I love how Arbor Hill displays their books for kids, and I love the hidden North Albany Library, which I hope doesn't stay as hidden. I see libraries, and I've seen them, excuse me, my whole life, as places and keepers and holders of the story of a place. And so anything I do as a trustee will be to keep that center of our communities in a place of freedom and integrity and equity that we most desperately need in these times. I also see library as a reflection of where we are now. If you walk into any branch, it's a pretty good gauge and temperature of who we are as a city. And I also see them as a place of understanding who we are becoming and what that looks like and how do we get there. And so, as many of my colleagues here have said, many neighbors here have said, financially and having that fiduciary responsibility as a trustee is something I will take very seriously. In my past history, actually before living in Albany, I've been working with institutions that always walk that fine line of figuring out how to creatively use the resources that we have. And I would do that to the end of making sure that the staff that we have, if you've never gotten to know the staff of your libraries, go do it tomorrow, not just because of the budget, but because they're probably the most cool people in the city. And so all of my work would be so that they can keep doing their work so that we can all keep becoming what it will look like for us to live in a culture that's increasingly divided, and having this center place where division really is actively, they're actively fighting against that in any library branch that we have in our city. And so I hope that you'll trust me that we can continue to build on who we are as well as celebrate who we have been. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next is Kenneth Lozier.
Nobody let me forget that nameplate, please. Good night, good evening, everybody. Hopefully y'all get the rain coming in here. I'd like to get straight to the point. So unfortunately, even with the important role public libraries play, it can still be an uphill battle. Across the country, we've seen many library systems face both external pressures and challenges from within. One concern that has stood out to me over the past few years is the growing politicization and polarization of public institutions, including libraries, where decisions can sometimes become less focused about service and duty to the library and more about differing agendas or viewpoints. This can make it harder for libraries to stay focused on their core mission of serving the community effectively. Luckily tonight, as you can see, Albany does not necessarily face that same level of challenge at this time with a slate of candidates who clearly value and support our library. That to me reflects the proactive and community-focused work the library continues to do, building a community that not only uses it, but truly cares about it and is invested in keeping it strong. That is why we must continue to make sure the library stays engaged in these efforts to uplift residents of the city, but also show what positive force it is. Another key challenge closer to home that libraries face is finding a spot in people's lives. Most people are busy with their everyday lives, work, family, and other obligations that some find it hard to find time to engage with the library. It was perhaps one of the more common things I heard when collecting signatures. I love our library, but I haven't been there in so long. Many people speak of missing a third place, and I feel this is a perfect opportunity for the library to find a way to bring these people back in. Finding unique services, not usually associated with a library, can encourage someone to visit where they can engage with the core services the library offers. Also importantly, seeing their tax dollars at work. We want to make sure people feel their taxes are being used in a way that helps the community, but also benefits them. Thanks.
Next up is Sarah Masinski.
Much shorter. So for the question about libraries facing challenges, nationally, censorships and book bans are a huge threat. And I want to acknowledge that threat and that it does exist even here. But I don't want to spend too much time on it because APL and the Albany community are largely supportive of the right to read. APL partners with the New York Civil Liberties Union for an annual banned book readout and has signed on to the American Library Association's Freedom to Read statement. When I initially ran, my answers in the Meet the Candidate session revolved around a metaphor where I described APL as the hub of a bicycle wheel, and I likened the many programs and resources, both provided and needed, to the spokes. I spoke about needing balance, as with a bicycle wheel. If the tension on the spokes is not properly balanced, the bicycle wheel loses the ability to support the rider, and forces from pedaling and braking create an unsafe situation. This need for balance still exists, and after 4 years, I see it even more clearly. The facilities do provide heat in the winter and air conditioning in the summer, but APL has to maintain those facilities and pay the associated utility bills. The staff at APL work hard to meet community needs with various programming and resources, but staffing a 7-branch system is expensive. Funding is a serious challenge facing public libraries. I can imagine an APL with enough staff to have each branch open every day. I can imagine an endless budget for digital content, allowing all of us all the materials as soon as we want them. But I can't imagine asking taxpayers to shoulder that burden. Finding the balance is essential, and how APL can rise to that challenge. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Kaylee McTagg.
Hi everyone, I am Kaylee McTagg. I am 4th or 5th generation Albany. I grew up by Buckingham Pond. But I think in terms of challenges that libraries are facing, funding, lots of folks have already said this, funding. Keeping the lights on is hard enough, let alone providing programming that actually meets community needs. And this is a challenge that libraries face and tackle pretty impressively year after year. So beyond that, I think the fiscal and social climate of this particular moment in time is a challenge we're all feeling in different ways. We're already bearing the brunt of so many federal cuts here at the local level in Albany and around New York State. And while I am ever an optimist, I do think that the worst of these cuts and the impact that we're going to feel from them is kind of just getting started. So I really welcome the opportunity to support the library, not only in seeking that funding every year that they need to keep the lights on, but more immediately welcome the opportunity to support library staff and our library systems in meeting the many community needs that they meet every single day. Books and research and access to information, of course, being the things that come to mind first for most of us, but beyond that, access to internet service, a computer, a printer, storytime, arts and crafts, museum passes, all the things that we heard about in the budget presentation earlier. But things like tax prep assistance, job and housing applications, applications for unemployment and other social services. These are programs that Albany residents are going to be relying on more and more as time goes on. And I'm really glad to know that those resources are available here to me and to my neighbors, and I want more folks to know that as well, and to know that if they can't access those resources elsewhere, that they can probably find somebody at their library who is willing to help. So while these challenges feel a little daunting, nobody can stretch a dollar further than our library systems, and nobody can make a lot out of a little better than library staff. So I really welcome the opportunity to support them in those endeavors and to support the city of Albany as well.
Thank you. Next up is Matthew Reed.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks, Jen. Thanks, Paige, Andrea. My name is Matt Reed. I'm a resident of the city. I live in the Eagle Hill, Buckingham Pond neighborhood. When I thought about this question, I thought of the obvious thing that everyone said, the financial and economic problems that face households and libraries the same. Inflation, rising costs. Obviously, my national grid bill is huge, so I assume the library's is even bigger. It's no different. In fact, it's worse since the library relies on tax revenue. As we just learned, 93% of the budget comes from the taxes. Coupled with that, though, I think kind of nationwide, and I hope we don't feel this as much in Albany, but there's kind of a national feeling of helplessness and apathy and a disconnected nature to our world right now. And libraries are really the only place, or the best place in my mind, that can be combated. Our libraries have the makerspace, they have programming, they have tax assistance, they have so many programs. They have, Miss Lindsay in the makerspace who makes my little 9-year-old, who won't probably talk to her friends at school, ask for help. Just the services like that are unparalleled in this city. And I think that's kind of key to how the library combats the financial crisis, right? If you're going to make your citizens or ask your citizens to pay a 17% tax increase, you want them engaged, you want them invested, and you want them involved in your library. And there's no better way to do that than to maintain clean, welcome, open facilities, give folks programs like we have in our library, the makerspace, the assistance with business planning, the free rooms to rent for their groups. It's just a public, warm, clean place. I think continued development of those engaging programs, investment of the facilities, makes it a lot easier for that sort of community to welcome and accept such a large tax increase. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we have Smriti Sinha.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming out in this rain, and for those of you joining virtually, thank you. I have to take a moment to say hi, Mom. She's tuning in from San Diego. She's super excited, and I'm very excited because I've been living in Albany for 5.5 years in the North Albany community, and in that time, I've really been trying to engage as much as I can, and the library has been a gateway for that for me. Pardon me, I'm going to rely on my notes a bit. I've used the library extensively, from the book clubs to craft programs to most recently our partnership with Love Your Block and growing things from seeds. Not very good at that, but I'm learning and I'm growing. It's also given me an opportunity to glimpse into our many neighborhoods. As my peers have mentioned, we are everything from a growing and evolving city in downtown Albany to sprawling and established suburban neighborhoods. And with that comes a very diverse population and its many challenges. I think if we look at libraries as a global resource, we can see that there are challenges in the rapidly changing infrastructure, going more digital, of course, but also issues with misinformation or evolving literacy needs. So that's a challenge that all libraries face. Another one would be the equity gap of making sure we can get access to the internet, access to resources, both digital and physical, to our communities. Of course, funding. Money is a problem and an issue for everyone, but including a resource like a library. And the gap between what we can or already do provide versus what the community needs. If we zoom out a bit, there is a bigger problem in that the wages aren't necessarily increasing, but the cost of living is. And I think libraries become a resource and a third space for us to meet those needs. Of the many, many ways that I think we can help address that, as a former New York State Comptroller employee, I am very familiar with doing more with less and being creative in coming up with solutions. But I appreciate the fact that we engage with local community resources like the Albany Center Gallery and Love Your Block to hold programs and reach out to our community. I also think we can come up with more innovative ways. I can copy paste the many wonderful suggestions that my peers have given and more, but I look forward to working with the library to bring that to you.
Okay, so the next question, candidates will be brought up in alphabetical order by first name. So the second question posed to candidates is, one of the primary responsibilities of a trustee is duty of care. The New York State Library Handbook for Trustees describes the duty of care as acting in good faith and exercising the degree of diligence, care, and skill that an ordinary, prudent individual would use under similar circumstances in a like position. As a trustee, how will you show up for the library and fulfill the duty of care? And first up, we have Jenna Kirsten.
Hello again. Alrighty. Serving the needs of the Albany community as a trustee is a role I would not take lightly. I understand duty of care to mean acting as a responsible and informed steward of library resources and acting in good faith based on needs expressed by the community. To do so, I would draw on my personal and professional experiences in education and administrative work. First, this means having the ability to handle sensitive and important matters with the care they deserve. When I worked as an academic advisor, I worked with several hundred students each year on crafting academic plans that fit into the other personal, professional, and health-related circumstances of their lives. I maintained appropriate confidentiality regarding personal information and took great care in helping students navigate their academic lives during a period of heavy transition. Additionally, I have the ability to work collaboratively with students and colleagues to turn observed and expressed needs into action, using a mix of interpersonal feedback, acquired data, and personal judgment to determine the best course of action. Whether this has been working with undecided students on deciding a college major, developing creative games to play with my German students to encourage more speaking practice, or collaborating with colleagues to plan successful events within my current role at KPMG, I have developed the ability to listen, reflect, and work collaboratively with community partners and stakeholders to turn big picture ideas into concrete tasks. As a trustee, I would draw on these strengths to show up for the library and fulfill duty of care. This could come in various forms, from regularly attending and promoting library events, building and continuing relationships with library staff, and having a constant intent to explore connections with other organizations and resources to further APL's mission to educate, entertain, and empower city residents. I'll end with this. I've lived in various cities in New York State and throughout Germany. There is something so special about Albany and this community that called me back here and continues to keep me here. As a trustee, I would fulfill duty of care because I love this city, and I want to support APL in the key role it plays in fostering community and making the city such a special place to build a home in. Thank you.
Next, we have Catherine Bamberger.
That was fabulous. I'm just going to say what she said, all of that. Very well said. Duty of care, as was described, the last part of the statement about showing up. So showing up is really where I see that's the first step, making sure that we attend meetings and show up and we're prepared. And we've read the documents ahead of time, we've given it some thought. We sit during the meetings and we listen respectfully to the other members of the board, to the staff, to the community members who also show up to share their information and their experiences. And that's really what the duty of care is all about. Being reasonable, being open to suggestion, being open to change your mind is not a sign of character weakness, but rather a sign of intelligence, that you're able to take in new information and then steer your decision-making around the information to the best of your ability. So I'm too tall to be Bleecker, but I have in fact played with the costume for Clifford the Big Red Dog. I've also been the Chicka Chicka Boom Boom letter tree and Dr. Seuss. So I feel like between that, actually having been to the American Library and New York Library Association meetings and having had a career in publishing that's afforded me those opportunities about 25 years ago when books were going away. So we are open to change, we are open to suggestions, we are open to new opportunities, but what we do best is take care of each other and take care of each other in our community. Thank you.
Next is Kaylee McTagg.
So in my day job, I'm Chief of Staff to State Senator Pat Fahey, and before that I worked for the Assembly Programming Council, and I got to be like the de facto Libraries Committee analyst for a year and a half, which was a lot of fun. I got to deep dive into like broadband access and municipal resource sharing and all of that stuff. And before that, I was an English major at Manhattan College, so as a recovering English major, I love a good quote. And getting ready for tonight, I found one I liked. Bad libraries build collections, good libraries build services, great libraries build communities. And I really do believe we are fortunate enough to live in a city with truly great libraries that show up for our community every single day. And I have utilized the libraries here since I was a kid. I got my first library card in kindergarten. My mom took me to the library that used to be next to School 19 before the Bach branch was built down New Scotland Avenue. And in the time I haven't lived in Albany, I've lived in other states doing political work. And like one of the first things I have found in every state I've ever lived in is the library, to like make friends, to find a quiet place to work, to kind of get the pulse on what's happening in a community. I even got my solar eclipse glasses at the Utica Library in the Detroit metro area because nobody else had them. So like drove around for 2 hours looking, and I should have just started at the library down the street from my house. But I am truly invested in the strength and success and future of our community as both my like profession and as just like my personal just obsession and who I am. But I really look forward to threading the needle on my personal experience as a kid who grew up here, who went to Albany schools, who's used these libraries my whole life, and as a person who does a lot of this stuff as it relates to my day job. So I see serving as library trustee as kind of a natural next step in my public service to New York and the city of Albany. And I hope you'll vote for me, and if you don't, I hope that you will all still vote to pass the budget. So thank you so much, and yeah.
I believe one of the most important qualities for anyone in a Board of Trustees position in relation to duty of care or a similar position is a strong sense of ethics and conviction to stand by. Too often we see people in positions of authority claim one belief but vote against it, whether for the sake of group consensus, fear of opposing the majority, or simply moving things along. This is a disservice to those who supported them and to the library system itself. Our institutions are built on discussion, disagreement, and compromise, making potentially hard choices that go against the group to make sure all points are heard and understood. Duty of care means standing by one's principles in a productive way to support their long-term strength of the library system. I say that to bring up the fact that a lot of my roles in the past have focused on compromise, working with different community groups, trying to find ways to not necessarily make everyone happy, but to make sure that everyone has a seat at the table, everyone's voices are heard, everyone is able to express their opinions on how we as a collective are able to move a common good forward. Duty of care also means using the information that is known and making the most prudent and best decision, whether that decision may be popular or not. It's easy to make decisions that will be well received, but it's not easy to make choices that you have to defend and perhaps will never win people over on. But as stated above, one that you believe another ordinary prudent individual would make under these circumstances. Saying all that, my plan to exercise duty of care in the few ways I described is to be as present as I can, as engaged as possible, and learn all that I can when it comes to decisions we must make. Seek out opinions from different perspectives to help guide my decisions, staying in line with my beliefs and the needs expressed by others, also making sure to defend the choices we make, helping others understand the decisions made, whether well received or not, and taking accountability for those choices and those decisions. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Leslie Dykeman.
All right, this is going to be kind of dry, but before I start, even though I was an auditor my whole life, I do have somewhat of a sense of humor. And I do fit into that costume. But if you go to the Pine Hills street fair, I am the hot dog at the hot dog that my son runs. Okay. I will exercise care by attending the monthly board meetings and the meetings of any committee that I will be serving on. In the past year, I've actually attended board meetings in this room, and I attended one via YouTube while I was out of town. I am ready to listen, discuss, and vote. I will exercise care by familiarizing myself with the documents associated with the board meetings. I've read the New York State Library Trustee Handbook, and I will familiarize myself with the publications and the information on the state ed website with regards to not only the trustees' jobs, but general library duties. I will exercise good judgment and act in good faith, as well as relying on our library director's reports on daily operations, and will confirm the library operates legally and respects employment, civil service, and the education laws. I will be an active steward. I will keep current on the library's financial, legal, and operational matters. To me, this means reviewing financial reports, monitoring income and expense, and ensuring the proper use of library funds. When meeting members of the community, I will ask and listen to what they tell me their library needs and wants are. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Lori Kohansky.
I was really struck by the word ordinary in that question. It just looks like we're looking for somebody who does ordinary things. It gave me a little bit of peace because I grew up in a house where public service was just what you did, and to have a servant's heart was just how you cared about the people, and that felt pretty ordinary. And so I hope to just keep doing the things that I do already, but do them with the library as a new lens with which to think and to see and to be in this community. Most people just want to be seen, want to understand why things are being done the way they are. And so showing up not just at library functions, but continuing to be someone who gives their heart and soul to this city will be what I commit to you as part of my duty of care in this particular role. I drive around all day as a member of the Albany Police Department, the Community Advocacy Response Team, so I see things all day. So this would just be a lens I would add to my current viewfinder. I'm an artist at the Albany Barn, and I love what our city does for bicycles, so if you don't know about Albany Bike Rescue, find out about them. The Underground Railroad is one of those places where I always try to find myself if I can, and especially if I can't any other day. I go there in July, on the 4th of July, because it reminds me, and again, my duty of care for this role would encompass all of those things that are already happening in our community, but then seeing them again through this lens, holding the stories of who we were, who we are, and who we are becoming.
Okay, next up we have Matthew Reed.
Thank you again. I'll speak slower this time. I tend to ramble. Every court reporter I've ever spoken in front of told me that. But as a lawyer, I was tempted to kind of attack this question from like a legal requirement standpoint and get into some really convoluted legalese. But I see it more of a moral obligation. It's obviously a legal requirement. It's in the trustee's handbook and it's in the bylaws. But it's really akin to what I tell my children about the golden rule, which is very old-fashioned. I get that. But like, you do unto others as you would want them to do unto you. I feel like the duty of care is the library trustee's version of that, that you would expect me, or a person in this role, to be the kind of steward of the library's funds, facilities, programs for the benefit of the city's residents in the same way that I'd expect the current trustees to hold themselves to that same high standard. I'm a product of public service. My father was a school teacher in public schools. My mother worked at SUNY Oswego. I went to public school for elementary, middle school, high school, public university, and a public law school. My entire career has been in public service, first as a United States Marine, then a prosecutor, also well in the Marine Corps, and then now as a state attorney for the New York State. I know the importance of public service. Like the public library, I would bring my passion for the institution and for public service to this position. As an attorney, I've spent nearly 20 years advocating for a client, a position. Sometimes I was lucky to actually advocate for justice. I'm detail-oriented, able to bring my expertise evaluating facts, even if they're buried in convoluted legalese, and reach an equitable and just outcome. And I know that involves compromise, but at the heart of it is public service and the requirement to act as an ordinary, prudent person. As a trustee, I could promise to be present for all meetings, physically possible. Responsibility is I bring an open mind, draw on my experiences and expertise to advance the library's and community's best interests. I can also promise that I'm running for this role as a true library user, as I think all of us are. And at the heart of the duty of care would be, and my decisions would be focused on bettering the community and this library for the users. Thanks.
And now Sarah Mazinski.
Hi again. So part of the handbook definition says to use the care and skill that an ordinary, prudent individual would use under similar circumstances. I like this language because it acknowledges that none of us are experts in all things library. But not being an expert is okay at the library. Curiosity and learning are encouraged here, and people aren't afraid to look for answers. I grew up at the library. One of my early memories is library staff helping me check out read-along books. Back then, they came with a cassette tape and a little plastic bag, and they hung up on a little rack. The library taught me to act responsibly by checking them out and keeping the components together. When I was older, the library provided the resources that I was going to use to convince my parents that I needed a horse. But the library also gave me the information to decide this was not prudent for a middle schooler in the city of Binghamton. Then, when I was in high school, librarians taught me how to research periodicals on microfilm and microfiche. They taught me to be diligent and to pay attention to sources and biases. The duty of care is a pledge to do my best for APL and the city of Albany. That's taking the time to show up. Showing up is more than just attending board meetings. It's spending my time so that I come to meetings prepared. Showing up is making myself available by checking library email regularly. It's attending library events and talking to people about the library. Showing up is spending my time to ensure that I am growing through continuing trustee education. Showing up is about balancing my wants with the community needs, just the way the library taught me.
All right. And finally, we have Smriti Sinha.
The downside of having the initials SS is that I am always last. The benefit of that is that hopefully I am the last impression for you tonight. I'm going to bridge the gap between the last question and this a little and try to stick to my script a bit so I can stay within my time allotment. I do think that Albany Public Library shows up and faces many of the challenges that we discussed in our earlier question in a really great way. I think one of the things I noticed when I was out there knocking on doors for the first time ever and even walking into barbershops to get my last few signatures was recognizing that there's a gap between what we offer as a public library, all the services and opportunities, and what the public understands us to provide for them. And so I think duty of care kind of encompasses that part as well. Beyond my duty to the library itself and to being a board member, it is an elected position that is meant to serve the public and serve the residents of the city of Albany. And so I think one of the biggest responsibilities I would have in this position would be to actually go out into my community more. It excited me to speak to the people who live in the area and get to know my neighbors. And gave me an opportunity to hear questions that I didn't necessarily have answers for, from as simple as how do I renew my library card, to more complex issues like what kind of programs do you offer for the visually impaired, and just everything in between. And it showed me that there's an opportunity for us to bridge that gap by expanding the amount of communication and transparency that we have in how we use the money that we have coming in and how that serves our community at large. So for me, fulfilling the duty of care is about showing up thoughtfully, asking the right questions, and making sure that the library continues to serve all its patrons in a meaningful way, meeting that mission statement of educating, entertaining, and empowering. As a business analyst and project manager, I am used to reviewing complex information, managing resources efficiently, and ensuring that anything that we take on achieves the results that we sought to get. I'm excited for the possibility to engage more meaningfully with APL, especially as you go into the next cycle of strategic planning. I'm looking forward to what you have in mind and how I can participate with that. Ultimately, my goal is to combine practical oversight with genuine passion for what APL has to offer and make sure that we meet our missions. Thank you.
Wow, this is great. I'm so excited for any of you to join us on the board. This has been so wonderful. Thank you all for your really thoughtful responses. What a fun, smart group. Thank you again to Jen also for helping me moderate this evening. And a reminder that for folks who weren't able to watch tonight, there will be a recording available later in this week. And if you are feeling inspired by all these folks and by our budget presentation to continue to support the work that we do at Albany Public Library, I would encourage you to seek out the Friends and Foundation of the Albany Public Library to help us continue to advance this mission. And then, of course, a reminder that the budget vote and election day is on Tuesday, May 19th. If you have questions about your polling place, you can check out the school website or our library website to get more information about your polling place, as it may be different from your usual polling place. Yeah, this has been a delight. So thank you to everybody who is here in person. Thank you to everybody who is watching online. Thank you to everyone who will hopefully watch the recording of this. And again, thank you so much to our wonderful candidates.
Thank you.
Thank you.